First, I'm announcing that the Southern District of New York has filed charges against Caroline Ellison, the former CEO of Alameda Research, and Gary Wang, a co-founder of FTX, in connection with their roles in the frauds that contributed to FTX's collapse. Both Ms. Ellison and Mr. Wang have pled guilty to those charges, and they are both cooperating with the Southern District of New York. Let me reiterate a call that I made last week. If you participated in misconduct at FTX or Alameda, now is the time to get ahead of it. We are moving quickly, and our patience is not eternal. Second, I'm announcing that Samuel Bankman-Fried is now in FBI custody and is on his way back to the United States. He will be transported directly to the Southern District of New York, and he will appear in court before a judge in this district as soon as possible. Many individuals in the Bahamas and in the United States contributed to the swiftness of the defendant's return, and I want to thank the Bahamas for its outstanding assistance and excellent coordination with us.
We are following breaking news. The Senate, as expected, passed a $1.7 trillion year-long spending bill.
That legislation now advances to the House of Representatives. The massive spending package must be approved by the House and then signed by President Biden by tomorrow to avert a government shutdown. Temporary government funding runs out tomorrow at midnight.
CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane joins us now from Capitol Hill. Scott, this spending bill now has about a day to be approved by the House, then signed by the president to avoid that government shutdown. So what is the likelihood of this actually happening?
Supremely high, and the best indication of that, Dana, is I almost got run over by two senators who were running to the train to run to their cars to then run to a plane to get out of Washington, D.C. Not an exaggeration, not hyperbole. Two of them almost ran me over. So this has gotten through the U.S. Senate, $1.7 trillion, about half of that money for the U.S. Department of Defense and military programs. That proportion was a high priority for Republicans. They wanted at least half of this money to go towards military spending, which they believed to have been too low. There's also tens of billions of dollars in aid for Ukraine. This vote comes about 12 hours after Volodymyr Zelensky spoke here at the Capitol about the importance of foreign aid. There are questions, Lana and Dana, about the possibility this aid could get gummed up next year when Republicans control the U.S. House and have equivocated about the level of aid funding to Ukraine. There's a ban on TikTok on federal government employee phones that would impact tens of thousands of people. They added that to the bill. And there's the Electoral Reform Act, changing how the procedures will work on future January 6th after presidential elections to prevent a recurrence of what happened in 2021 and make it more difficult for any rogue House or senators to gum up the counting and certification of presidential electoral votes. Lots in there. It's passed the Senate, goes to the House next, should be done by tonight.
Hey, Scott, talking about things that gum up the works, today's vote actually happened later than expected, and you were telling us about Senator Lee's poison pill amendment. Tell us how the agreements were eventually reached there.
Yeah, it's interesting, particularly if you enjoy the parliamentary procedures of the Senate. When I mean enjoy, I mean can tolerate the parliamentary procedures of the Senate. Senator Lee of Utah proposed an amendment last night that got things onto a thin wire, a bit of a high wire act. He proposed a continuation of that Title 42 restriction on migrant movements into the United States. If that was included in this bill, it would not have passed the U.S. House, so things got tricky for a while. What Democrats did was put up their own amendment on migrant movements, on Title 42, that they realized would still get votes, but absorb votes away from Lee's amendment so that it doesn't make it into the final bill and be a poison pill. So they found a way to neutralize that amendment, and that's why they voted for final passage a short while ago by a margin we expected, roughly 7-3 margin, to get this bill through the U.S. Senate.
Scott, so glad you did not get run over because there was so much information there that is truly helpful. Thank you.
Now we move to our southern border. From Texas to California, it's estimated that tens of thousands of migrants are waiting for Title 42 restrictions to end so they could enter the U.S. and seek asylum. They will likely spend Christmas waiting in the cold. Omar Villafranca has the latest from Elpaso, Texas, one city struggling to handle the overflow.
In just the last week alone, nearly 6,000 migrants have been shuttled through El Paso to cities across the country to process their immigration claims.
New York or Chicago?
But that still leaves thousands of migrants in El Paso. And with shelters overcrowded, city leaders opened the convention center overnight. It can house more than 1,000 migrants. They want to get as many people as possible off the streets, with temperatures dropping below freezing this week.
Yo quiero darles a todos, quiero, pero no tengo.
And now conditions are getting worse, with a potentially deadly cold snap on the way. Yet the line to enter El Paso does not end. Up to 1,000 people wait along the fence. Stephanie Rubio and her 2-year-old son traveled here from the Dominican Republic.
Un futuro.
You want a future? But she was greeted with armed soldiers, military vehicles, and razor wire, all part of Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott's Operation Lone Star.
The people who were crossing into El Paso should be blockaded.
Prácticamente es como que si le rompieran los sueños a uno.
Yalin Arguelles, who traveled all the way from Venezuela.
Sentí como que ya se me acabaron las posibilidades.
For CBS Mornings, Omar Villafranca in El Paso, Texas.
Trying to create a place that is supportive to people who inhabit it, that also brings good to places around it, and with being sustainable, being emotionally sustainable, not causing new traumas to society, trying to make as less harm to the planet as we can. Yes, for sure Georgia became a place where a lot of Russians are escaping. So, but those people in Russia who just moved, and they also all in this agenda of the war, of them escaping Russia and so on, when they come here they feel like, oh, this kind of a place out of context, you know, like a bubble that exists on their own, because this atmosphere and the forest and everything, you kind of get lost from the agenda, and this is good for their emotional state. It's not that we are ignoring the war. Actually, most of the people with Russian background here, they were activists or still are. They went to protests and so on. So there is nobody here who supported Putin before war, for example. We came to this point because a lot of people did not do it in the past, actively protesting, actively being against corruption. And at this point I agree with Ukrainians, because maybe now it is almost impossible. We see, like in Belarus, what happened. A lot of people came to the streets and were physically engaged with police and so on. And but it did not do anything. So maybe sometimes to kill the evil you should leave it alone, and you know it will destroy itself from within probably.
When you actually look at what Zelensky's democracy is, you see no freedom of the press. He has shut down any media that he does not control, his government does not control. He has gotten political opposition arrested, made sure that that's happened. As you mentioned, he shut down the biggest Ukraine church in the country. And I found this quote today. He has actually threatened to punish, quote, any Christian caught worshiping in unapproved ways.
Oh,
so this is the democracy that they are saying, well, we need all of your money, our money, taxpayer dollars to go and defend. This is their shining example of democracy. It's no surprise then when we look at what's happening here at home, Tucker, and it's no surprise how we see the political and power elite so easily and willing to undermine our own democracy, undermine our own freedoms, abusing their power to achieve their own political interests, because they look to Zelensky's democracy and they see a reflection and an opportunity for them.
Forecasters say a major winter storm, which is sweeping the US this week, may bring the coldest Christmas in 4 decades to parts of the country. Now, there's already been major snowfall in parts of the US. More than 90 million people in 37 states are set to experience sub-zero temperatures, including places as far south as Texas, prompting warnings from officials. The cold snap could become known as what's called a bomb cyclone. That would be by tomorrow. Well, let's get more from our weather presenter, Matt Taylor.
Some of the coldest weather in decades is set to sweep across a good part of the US and Canada over the next few days, linked partially into something which has been termed a weather bomb cyclone. What is that about? Well, let me take you to the upper air where the planes fly first of all. Jet stream ribbon of fast-flowing air has been above the skies of Western Canada, pushing into the US, and it's on this little curve here where subtle changes in wind speed causes air to rise rapidly, and that develops an area of low pressure very, very quickly. The centre of that, the pressure can drop more than 24 millibars in 24 hours, and it's that which gets the term a bomb cyclone, a weather bomb. Essentially, an area of low pressure becomes very stormy very, very quickly, and it's the winds around that which will help push some very cold air quite widely. Take you back to Wednesday. Calgary had its coldest December day in around 26 years, a high of minus 28 Celsius. And it's that cold air which will sweep not only across much of Canada, but through a good part of central and eastern US, freezing anything that's fallen beforehand in terms of rain. So flash freeze is a big issue, but temperatures dropping by day and by night, even as far south as Texas, Florida and the Bahamas through this week. Some nighttime temperatures in Florida could be as low as minus 10 Celsius, 14 Fahrenheit. And it's only part of the issue with the cold because, as I said, with a weather bomb you get strong winds, and through the plains we're expecting life-threatening wind chill with feels like temperatures almost as low as around minus 70 Fahrenheit. 5 minutes would cause frostbite, and of course there is that threat to life. So even though we're seeing temperatures minuses in the Celsius, it's going to feel cold in that in the wind in some of the major towns and cities across Canada, central and eastern US. And then Christmas Day, Miami, 12 Celsius will be the high. That's the low 50s in Fahrenheit. And if you are planning to be on the move ahead of Christmas, certainly around eastern Canada, the Great Lakes, upstate New York, be prepared. There could be some very heavy snowfall around too. Take care.